Well, it's been an interesting start to the campaign, but in this international break now, we are reviewing just how well had Watford done in this transfer window. Welcome to our Hornets Walk. Here they are, fresh back from Sheffield. Aaron and Rio, thank you very much for joining us again. We may have Luke joining us as well at some point. Before we get started and review, of course, the Sheffield result, put in the comments below right now. We want your grading on Watford's transfer window, 1 to 10. Put it in the comments now. We'll be asking these two in about 5 minutes' time for their gradings. We'll leave the Sheffield game for a second and jump straight into transfer deadline day window. Aaron, you always up at 11 o'clock, I'm sure, waiting to see any last-minute ones. Were you pleased overall when that window shut?
Yeah, I think for the most part we've done sort of what was required. Obviously, in this window, lost a lot of our three most talented players, but I think we've managed to bring in that large amount of money for those guys, but yet still plug some gaps and bring in some faces that we might see later on in the season.
So spot on. Rio, we'll look at the individual players in a second, but were you expecting anything to happen on that final day that didn't?
Well, it was rumoured we were after a centre mid, which is apparently Kiprianu from Peterborough, but obviously they're in a bit stubborn, don't want to lose their best players on the final day. But I think overall, very good window compared to recent years where it feels like the ownership is neglected and neglected the head coach, and there's some gaping holes in the squad. But I feel we've signed quite a lot of players this time, so I'm happy.
Before the season started, I think it was one of you, I think it might have been you, Luke, or Aaron, was saying we've got to stop this Udinese merry-go-round of swapping players. Now that you're doing well, do you mind that? Luke, I'll see if we can unmute you and get you in on that.
Sorry, what was the question?
All right, no worries. So is it time to stop the Udinese merry-go-round of transfers at Watford?
Oh, 100%. I think it's just, in terms of not even what we're doing, it's more that we look a bit of a laughing stock to the rest of other clubs. It's a bit of a joke, really. I think with the Bayo deal, it is all just to balance the books out at the end of the day and to free another space. I personally don't agree with it. It has worked a lot of times, and I'm always surprised at how we've never got any points deductions or anything to get away with it. So I don't blame the club in that sort of aspect to keep doing it when we don't get any troubles for it. But I personally do not agree with it. I think it's just very, very lazy and a cheap way of sort of sorting out finances.
Yeah, mention point destructions. There might be something we have to talk to you about next season. Let's go on to the spendings then. Here's all the teams ranked 1 to 24. Watford are the 20th smallest spenders, only 3 million spent. But if you have a look at the balances, look at that, 26.7 million euros in the green, in the black. So now, if I'm asking you financially, surely, Aaron, this is a 10 out of 10 window, isn't it? Forget about the football.
Oh well, yeah, they've recouped loads of money. We're supposedly still trying to pay off some debts, so I imagine that's what a large amount of that's going towards. In an ideal world, would I have liked to have seen that spent a little bit more on a few more players? Yes, but I don't think it's a dire situation as such. I think what they have managed to do with the little money they've spent has been sort of quite shrewd business.
Let's have a look then, and let's go through this for the final time of what you did spend. There was only 4 players, Rio, which you spent money on. The top 4 there: Pierre, Kevin, Almeida, and Vata. Now, I appreciate we haven't seen all of these yet, but who for you has stood out as a really shrewd signing so far?
I mean, all those players near the top that we did spend money on aren't and haven't been in the first team immediately. But I watched a bit of the under-21s today. Did lose 8-2 to Sheffield United, but Romo looked to stand out. I mean, is apparently the club have been really impressed with him in training and showed in the game today. He was just so calm and elegant on the ball. And I feel, given that we're a bit light in midfield, we do need someone like him to step up if called upon, because obviously Sissoko, 35, can't play every game, and Dudley Pshuru has had his injury problems over the years. So I'm really happy with that signing in particular.
And of the loans, Luke, that you've got there, any in particular that you were happy to see get over the line in the last week?
I'm pretty happy with the Jefferson deal. I think it's a safe bet. It's not in terms that risky. I know he's a new signing to Bournemouth from Sheffield United, which I wasn't too sure as to why we brought him on yesterday, because I knew he was going to get a bit of stick. But I'm pretty happy with that signing. In terms of our other signings from the full time, like Vata is my favourite sign out of all of them, and we haven't seen him play yet actually in the Championship, and he's looked really good the last 2 Carabao Cup games he's played. And it's I was hoping to see him yesterday come on the pitch, but we still haven't seen any sign of him, and he's looking really promising every time he plays for us.
Aaron, before we ask you for your grading, then we've also got to ask you about the people you've let go. 18 million on a Skrilla, 18 million euros, I should say. So for a Skrilla, Kone, of course, gone as well. Fletcher and Hamer went on free transfers. You can't really argue, I think, with that. Are there any on there, though, that you think the club might have done more to keep or give them better deals, or are you actually happy with the outgoings? Because transfer windows are also about getting big wages off the books, aren't they? Moving on older players. Do you think the club have done well in this aspect?
Yeah, I think we'd all resided to the fact that it was likely that Asprilla and Kone were going to go. Would I have kept Hoot around? Probably, but with the rumoured fees that the Saudi club have given us, I think it's around 3 million. I think for an aging player, you've got to sort of take that kind of money where you can, and then to bring in a free transfer in Ogbonna to sort of cover him as a stopgap for now. I think that is shrewd business, and that's recouping money where you can without heavily detrimenting the team. The guys that we released is fair enough. I mean, I'd maybe have kept Hamer around, but then again, we got Bond to cover that. So no, I'm not really disgruntled with many of the outgoings.
Okay. Right then, so we've done the finances, we've done the incomings, we've done the outgoings. So now it's the big question. Rio, out of 10. I'm going to ask you the same question at Christmas again. Rate Watford's transfer window for 24-25.
I'd give it a 7. I think it could have been a 10 if we got a like-for-like Asprilla replacement in, because at the moment we're playing Kiembe as a 10, which I don't think he's quite suited to, albeit he did score a few in the first couple of games. And so obviously Ogbonna is a stopgap, but yeah, I don't know if it's like-for-like, because obviously he lacks a bit of pace, maybe play more in the centre, but we'll wait and see. But I'll give it 7 out of 10, way better than recent years.
Okay. Luke, any advances on 7?
No, it's actually going to be down. I'm going to give it a 6, just on the basis of the outgoings and ingoings again. In terms of the actual money spent, we're looking at that piece where we've actually only spent about 20% of what we've got coming in. I know we're talking about like paying those loans off in the debts, but in terms of actually spending, we haven't done much of it. I know there's a lot of numbers in the incomings you look at that and think, great, there's 11 players signed, but we've only spent a few million of that, of what we've recouped from Asprilla, Kone, and from the other transfer windows previously, where we've reaped in about 230 million, spent 23 million of it. It's sort of that, again, are we actually investing that much? But in terms of the players we've got, it seems like it's been sort of smart. I'm happy with it in terms of the players we've got in. It's just, again, it's always I look to the financial part of it. You know, we as fans put a lot of money in the club. It's very small compared to the millions, but you know, I want to see that spent from what we're reaping in from especially Asprilla and Kone.
Okay. Just on that, do you think you're victims of your own success? Do you think if you hadn't won the first 3 games, you were sitting near the bottom, you think you might have spent a bit more? That's a stupid hypothetical question.
Maybe. I think we had this conversation after the first sort of game week when we talked about the transfer window. And we said, well, if we lost to Millwall, it might have actually benefited us a little bit more in our transfer window of maybe thinking, oh, we're in trouble here and let's spend. But maybe that actually did make a change because it seems like the club are happy with Cleverley, especially with what he said before the season. He said he backs us to be a top 10 side, which I think not many of us Watford fans even thought. We sort of laughed at that, as we saw from our predictions at the start of the season. And it seems like that within inside the club, there's a lot of confidence with Cleverley's project. And that's probably why we actually didn't see many signings. And he's proven it that what he's predicted, he's doing well. So it seems like the club actually aligned. But from us sort of outsiders, it was more of a shock that we didn't spend that much from how well we did. But that's probably why we didn't in the end.
I'd also say I think our start helped us attract certain players like Jefferson, because there was rumoured to be about 15 clubs or something, and in which we beat. And obviously, I mean, 3 out of 3 wins, it helps with aligning the players to the project Cleverley wants to set out. So win some, you lose some.
And playing devil's advocate there, though, I actually think it could have gone the other way had we started poorer, because then there might have been a sort of a creeping doubt in Cleverley's abilities to manage the team, into the sense that then they wouldn't spend money to back him because they might have looked at moving him on. So I think it could have gone either way there, to be honest.
Okay. All right. And finally, Aaron, come on, you get the deciding vote on this one.
I'd actually go with 7 as well, like Rio did. I think the reason it's a 7 and not higher is because of those outgoing players. They were the team's 3 best players last season. But then it's one of those that you are never going to get a like-for-like placement for Yasser Asria or for Ishmael Kone. It's not going to happen in the Championship. You can't sign that player to replace that player. You have to bring in someone younger and bring them up, just like we did with those 2. And I think that's what we've done, spending the money we have. I think looking at the people like Vata and Duomo especially, I think those 2 are sort of the ones that we're going to look at for the next 2 seasons and be like, okay, well, you guys are the next ones up. We're going to bring you up. I think that they'll quickly become more integrated in the first team. They'll play more games. And the idea is that the next time we sell a player for 10, 20 million, it will be one of those 2.
Okay. In the comments, if you haven't done already, I want to hear your predictions, or sort of your verdict on the transfer window. I want to just pose a question. We'll ask you this next week about the youth academy at Watford. Why aren't we seeing in that list of outgoings products of the youth academy being sold at higher rates? You can perhaps talk to me next week about where we are with Watford youth. All right, let's wind the clock further on then. Friday night closed, roll on to Sunday. And you had a nice trip to Sheffield, the 3 of you, until the whistle blew anyway. Let's get the obvious questions out of the way and done with. Aaron, penalty. Let's do their penalty first. Yes or no?
Oh, yeah. From the stand anyway, I actually haven't seen it back. I saw some people saying he went down easy, but from where I was in the stand, it looked as stonewall as they come.
Okay. Rio, your penalty?
Wait, for Watford or Sheffield?
For both.
I haven't seen ours, but I saw one Sissoko, I think it was grabbing O'Hare's foot. It did look like a pen.
It was a proper rugby tackle. Luke, you having that?
The first penalty, the actual one they had, was not a penalty. I thought it was a dive by what it looks like. And then the second one, the Sissoko one, was a stonewall penalty. They sort of just balanced itself out. They should have got one later on, but they didn't. They got one which they shouldn't have had anyway.
What was your take on the overall game, Aaron?
Do you know what? I spoke a lot about it last season. There's some places I look at when the fixtures come out and I go, that's sort of a free hit. There's no shame in going away to Sheffield United and losing 1-0, in my opinion. I thought, yes, there were definitely points we could have done a lot better, but I don't think it was a bad performance. I mean, you're asking for it when you go to a place as tough as Sheffield United and you can see the goal like that in 90 seconds. Like, you can't go to those places and give up that kind of chance. I think I said that one moment of defending is possibly some of the worst I've ever seen, and it was very uncharacteristic of us this season. The clubs might be worried about 2 games on the bounce conceding that early. It's definitely something they've got to work on over this break.
Yeah, it was unfortunate goal, isn't it? But yeah, it was shambolic. Rio, were you disappointed with your performance, especially in the second half?
I mean, I set my skybox to record the game as I was at an engagement party, but it didn't. But I felt from the 10 or so minutes I saw at the end, we couldn't really string a pass together, and the midfield weren't on their game as in previous weeks. And I don't know if I agree with the substitutions cleverly made, because I would have brought on like Vata, and don't know if Rajvic got onto the pitch, but he's set to leave now. But yeah, no shame in losing to Sheffield United, and I think it may be a bit of a wake-up call, because some of us getting a bit carried away thinking promotion, this, that, but hopefully we bounce back against Coventry and Norwich, which are two tough tests.
Yeah, more on that in a minute. Luke, I want to ask you about these particular tweets. It wasn't all negative. This was probably the most negative. Bayo was awful. Our midfield was non-existent. Cleverly subs were wrong, which I think was a theme that reopened. Why not take off Kayembe, who was poor? We need to toughen up a bit too. Why bring on Ince? Did he even touch the ball? Not great today from the gaffer or the team. Is there anything in there you disagree with? And if so, what?
In terms of disagree, I'd probably say no. It was one of those games where it was the first game at Cleverly he's actually got it wrong. But he's been really consistent in terms of his subs in the last few games. But I agree completely on the Bay. It was, I wouldn't say awful actually, but he had that chance which he should have buried. I think I'd back myself to finish that. It was an easy chip at the keeper. He should have scored that, and it would have made the game 1-0. And I don't think that the scoreline would have changed. It was a very boring game. Obviously, their lucky sort of own goal, stroke of luck, they got a head start for 1-0. And yeah, our midfield was right. It was non-existent. Dele Bashiri, who's been one of our sort of exciting prospects in the last sort of 6 months and also this season, probably had one of his poorest games he's had in a Watford shirt. But that didn't help because the midfield were not aligned. We did change the system towards the second half where we actually went to a 4-back. And that didn't seem to work either. It was just more of that we didn't seem to really click. But I'm hoping it sort of will change as it goes along. But yeah, cleverly subs were wrong. But it's a learning lesson for him, and he'll go in for next time.
I think Frank's one who says the same thing there, Aaron. So look at David's. David says, it is what it is. No need not to be positives. We head into a break. We have a bunch of new signings. Clevs gets some time with his new team. I am the first to normally rant, but this season I just want to reconnect and enjoy. So far, I am. That's a fair comment, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this international break is going to be really important for the team. And we've heard today that Rajvic is leaving. Obviously, the window's over now, so we can't replace him. I think now we are going to see Vata and Bar especially come into it more. But I mean, if Bayo or Jebinson gets an injury, then one of them two is going to have to step up. So yeah, I think it's going to be about getting the new signings that haven't really featured yet up to speed, and we can go into the Coventry home game with a fresh set of players. Hopefully everyone's fit, and we can try and just kick back on and just take that game as a blip.
Absolutely. Soldier on. Coventry next then, Rio. Their start has been absolutely woeful. They were predicted to go up, you're predicted to go down, and actually it's the opposite way around if you look at it at the moment. Any changes needed for the starting 11 to this one?
As I've said previously, I don't think Kiembe's attending. I think Vata in the cup games and pre-season, he has looked really promising. I'd like to see him come into the side. If not, Ball's been given more of an opportunity, so I wouldn't be opposed to that one happening. I think he's been promising in most of the games he's played, so I'd like to see Bar come in, and I think James Morrissey was at fault a bit for the first goal. He's done well considering he's in a makeshift role at left centre back, but I don't necessarily rate Porteous as highly as others do, but I'd like to see him come in for the natural defender.
Luke, you've played Stoke and Derby at home so far, beaten both, but both teams have been happy for you to have the ball and play to the sort of very direct style. Coventry don't do that. They want the ball and they'll attack you down the wings. So do we set up differently for this one or not?
I think the way we started, that for the first time in a while, I feel quite confident going to a game at home that I know we're going to keep the ball well and we're going to create chances. And I think we've got to keep it like that. Once we sort of lose that, where we have a team like Coventry where maybe we'll have less of the ball, I think it's something for fans, but we don't like to not have the ball. Obviously no club likes it, but it's more the atmosphere. Like there's a lot of times where we lose the ball early on, and it's sort of the rookery sort of gets a bit behind the team in not a good way. But when we keep the ball, play it well, which we have been doing really well at home, I think we have to keep it that way. And I think cleverly, from knowing the club so well, you know that you need to keep the fans on your side, because once you lose them for even 3 games, that could be it. And at home is when you're going to get that. So I'd be more than happy if he just tries to keep the ball well every single game at home, even if we don't get the chances. As long as he dominates the game, I'm happy with that, because he's still a young coach. And with our new players sort of coming in, blending in as the season go on, we should get even stronger. But as a Watford fan myself at the moment, I'm very confident that every home game we're going to play well, create chances, and at least get a goal, which we haven't been doing well for the last season.
Yeah, I watched your game yesterday. I thought you looked solid. I thought you really, really did. I agree with you. Could have got a goal back. I don't see that scoreline changing personally. You went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the league, or probably so far. So, yeah, let's keep smiling. Right, thank you very much for joining us on this week's channel. When we come back after the international break, we're going to get back on and review each individual position, starting with left backs, and get your opinions and all of that. And we'll also be asking for your worst away day memories as well. So be thinking about that. I'm sure there's quite a few that you can.
That'd be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us on Where Hornets Walk. And please, if you haven't already, follow Aaron and Rio and Luke on their X channels. They are excellent analysis of all things Watford, quite humorous as well. Aaron, you posted something about red shorts, I think. Didn't like not a fan of the purple. No, I wasn't a fan of your purple kit. I've got to be honest. I should have said.
No, look, the red shorts are still unbeaten. They're still unbeaten.
Yeah, you need to ditch that purple. Watford don't play in purple. It just doesn't feel right. Anyway, all right. Catch you next week. Thank you all.